Hello ladies and gentle peeps, Game Chanel here, and today I want to present you my Insect Glaive build. It's actually two different builds. They're similar in a sense, but one of them is less decoration heavy than the other one, meaning that you need less of the rare decorations. And so if you are struggling with the decorations that I have in the strong build, you can go for the weaker version and already start using the Insect Glaive, you know, get some practice in, get good at it, and then just keep farming for those decorations that I have. On that note, I actually record this video for the second time now because I realized halfway through the editing process that I had too much attack boost on the set. Instead of 7 levels, which is the maximum, by the way, I had 8 levels. So before I looked like a fool, I had to like reorganize the set. And the good news is I actually found a piece to replace one of the other pieces, and you know, as a result, I increased my damage by an additional 10%. So I'm super excited to present you this build, and I think we can agree that it looks pretty dope. I mean, to be honest with you, the Odogaron Insect Glaive is by far my favorite one, at least, because it's sleek. It just looks sexy. I don't know about you, but I really like it. And overall, I think the set looks pretty good. That's just my personal opinion. Okay, so before we go into the gear and the weapon and everything, if you find yourself liking this video at any point, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing, as I mentioned in my previous video. If we hit 1,000 subscribers, we'll do a small giveaway for a gift card or something. So yeah, just keep subscribing, keep pressing the like button, and now let's get into it. So before we talk about the armor and the skills that I'm using, I want to talk about the weapon first. I'm using the Vice Insect Glaive, which comes from the Odogaron tree. The reason why I'm using it is because it has 20% affinity, and it also comes with white sharpness, and there's no possible way to increase the sharpness even further. So with the set I'm using, I don't have any handicraft because it's not necessary. Downside of it is that it has only 496 attack, so that is pretty low, especially compared to like this Diablo's one with 713, or something like the Nergigante one with 651. Now, with this particular build, I get to 100% critical chance, and that's actually pretty easy to get to that point, and I'll show you in a second why. But it comes with 1 augmentation, and it comes with a level 2 decoration slot, which we actually end up needing, because this particular Insect Glaive has no element. I mean, I know it says fire, but it's actually locked. In order to unlock it, you would have to use the skill element up, or element free, or free element, stuff like that. but yeah, you would need to use that skill, but we're not using that skill. In fact, we're gonna slot in an elementless decoration, which I'll show you in a second, into this level 2 decoration slot. That way we increase our attack even further, and we actually increase it by 8%. So we go up quite a bit. So we are looking at roughly 540, 550, somewhere in that range. So it's not that big of a difference anymore once we actually have the elementalist decoration in it. Now, the other option you could go for is the Nergigante one, because this one also has sharpness all the way to the end, so you can't really increase it with handicraft, which is good. It has a higher base attack, however it comes with a little less affinity, 20% actually, and it doesn't have the level 2 decoration slot, which is fine because this one is not elementless anyway. This one has dragon element and a high elder seal, so it might be good in some other scenarios. I just like to use the Odogaron one, and I really wanted to make a build around the Odogaron Insect Glaive just because I like it visually. But it also has a different Kinsect bonus. This one has Sever boost, and then the other one has let me go back right here, has actually the speed boost, which is pretty good on your Kinsect, so that way you can get the buff pretty easily, in my opinion. So I'm using this one. Again, you can use the Nergigante one. Down the road, I want to try to make a build around the Diablos one. That's probably going to be a separate video though, because the build has to be adjusted to compensate for the minus 30% affinity. We kind of have to get rid of that, and then our critical chance won't be as high, and maybe the damage overall is going to be better. I'm not sure. I'll have to test around and try that out a little bit. But anyway, moving on, we're going to look at the armor and the skills now. So for the helm, we're using the Wrath Soul helm. beta version actually, and we get critical boost level 1. That's just coming from the helm itself, and it has 2 decoration slots. So I slotted in Critical Eye for additional affinity and Attack Boost level 1. And you should have this jewel or decoration from, just playing the story. Next is the Doba Mail Beta. That gets us 2 levels of Attack Boost, and I slotted in Critical Boost level 1. That increases our damage when we hit, like when we do a critical hit. Well, it says by 30%. In fact, every level increases the critical hit damage by 5% because you already deal 25% damage to begin with. So this just increases the damage instead of 25% additional to 30, and because we have critical boost as well in the helm, we actually increase to 35%, and that's where the 10% increased damage came from when what I told you about in the beginning. So so that's the piece I switched out. Next, we have the Kaiser Vambraces. That gives us 2 levels of Weakness Exploit, and I slotted in Speed Sharpening in the decoration slot. Then we have the Nergigante Coil Beta, 2 more levels of Attack Boost, and I slotted in the Weakness Exploit decoration. It's a Tenderizer Jewel. And lastly, we have the Dober Greaves Beta with 2 levels of Attack Boost, and then Speed Sharpening level 1. And we have in the weapon, we have the Elementalist Jewel, just because this particular weapon doesn't have an element, so it increases our damage even further. Now, ultimately, I would want to have the Protective Polish decoration for this set. I think that would make it even stronger. And we would probably lose the Critical Jewel right here, so we would fall back down to 30% instead of 35%. But overall, with the Protective Polish, we can sharpen our weapon, which we do pretty quickly thanks to the 2 Grinder Jewels that we have. And then we don't have to worry about sharpening our weapon for an entire minute, just because once you use it, your weapon is protected from any sharpness loss for an entire minute. And that way we can make sure that our Insect Glaives actually stays in white sharpness, and therefore it increases our damage by quite a bit. So ideally, you want to replace this Critical Jewel with a Protective Polish decoration if you have it. If you don't and you have the Critical Jewel, slot that in there. Otherwise, just put anything in there for the time being. Now, that being said, let me show you all the skills that we have. Oops, sorry, my bad. It's right here. So we have Attack Boost level 7, giving us 21 attack and plus 5% affinity. Keep in mind the attack multiplier for the Insect Glaive is 3.1, so we don't actually get just plus 21 attack, we actually get around 63 attack on top of that. So that, keep that in mind. We have Critical Eye level 4, increasing our affinity by 15%. Weakness Exploit level 3 to increase our affinity by 50% when we hit weak spots. Critical Boost, as I mentioned, we do an additional 10% damage when we do critical hits. That's very big because this build is gonna have 100% critical hit chance when we hit when we hit weak spots, and 50% critical hit chance when we hit non-weak spots. So that's still pretty good. Speed Sharpening level 2, and then the non-elemental boost from the decoration. Okay, so now let me, I'm also actually, before I forget, I'm running the Master's Charm to get us to Critical Eye level 4, because that's what we need to ultimately get to 100% affinity. So there's that. Now let me show you the kind of like easier version of this build, a little weaker but easier to farm for, and that would be the following. So what you could do, because I understand a lot of you don't have the Weakness Exploit decoration. It's kind of a rare decoration to get. I only got one so far. It's all I really need. But if you don't have this one yet, what you could do is you could switch out the Doba Greaves right here, and you can use the Rathalos Greaves, because it gives you Jump Master and 1 level of Weakness Exploit. The Jump Master, by the way, it does not prevent you from getting knocked back when you propel yourself into the air with the Insect Glaive. I tested that with a Diabolos in the arena when it was charging at me. I tried jumping over it with the R2X move, and I even tried R2X and then an additional X, to propel yourself in a different direction. And on top of that, I also tried R2X and then the circle to do an attack. No matter what I did, I still got knocked back because propelling yourself up with the Insect Glaive is not considered a jump, apparently. The only thing that is considered a jump is if you actually jump off a ledge. or something like that. So in that case, you wouldn't get knocked back, but it's very situational. You don't do it that much, in my opinion. That makes it worthwhile, but you're really looking for the weakness exploit. Sometimes you might benefit from this, but all you really need is the weakness exploit. Now, if you use this instead of the Dober, obviously you would be losing the attack boost, the 2 levels of attack boost, so you would fall from level 7 to level 5. So decreasing your attack a little bit, it's not that much, so don't worry about it, and you would lose the speed sharpening slot, I guess. So you know, you wouldn't sharpen your weapon that fast. Maybe you want to compensate for a different decoration. I don't know. That's up to you. But that would make it a little easier on you, because I understand the Tenderizer Jewel is a little harder to get. So while you farm for that, maybe you're better off with the Rathalos Greaves instead of the Dober ones. All right. So before I go ahead and show you the damage numbers in the practice area, I quickly want to talk about the affinity and the critical hit chance that we have with this build. As I said, it's 100% critical hit chance build. We have currently 40% affinity, if you can see that on the right side. And so basically we always have a 40% critical hit chance whether we hit weak spots or not. However, the goal is to hit the weak spots of the monster. So once we do that with the weakness exploit, we get an additional 50%. So we are looking at 90% affinity when we hit weak spots. And then the final 10% we actually get from augmenting this weapon. So let me show you that real quick. So once we do the augmentation, we only have one slot anyway, but we go from 20% to 30% affinity. So you can see that here. And so once we do the augmentation, we go to 100% critical hit chance with this particular build. Not that it really matters for this build, but I'm using this particular Kinsect because I like the blast effect that it has. It also has a very high power level of 12, a very high speed level of 15, that's actually the highest. And with the Odogaron weapon, again, remember we have the speed increase while using this weapon, so it's even past level 15. It's really, really fast. And it has a very low heal, which I don't really care about because I'm not going to use this to heal myself. It's just too damn difficult to hit a tail of the monster, especially like if it's a small tail or if it's moving a lot. I think it's faster taking out a Mega Potion. It also heals more than a Kinsect heal, but you could, if you're struggling, you could use this Kinsect too, which gives you the healing dust effect. Now that obviously heals you by a lot more, especially if you have like 6 dust clouds around and you jump in there and you hit them all. You can heal yourself by quite a bit. It's also pretty fast. The only thing you really want to stay away from are Kinsects that have a very low speed like this one. I would say anything below like level 10 or 11 you shouldn't bother, because this particular one, level 4, it's just gonna take so damn long for the Kinsect to travel to the part that you're aiming for and sending it to. I mean, by the time this Kinsect arrives, the monster's either dead, maybe even extinct, not quite sure, but it's gonna take so damn long. Don't even bother. Lastly, let's have a quick look at the damage numbers so you can compare it with your build. Maybe you have one that's stronger, maybe you have one that's a little weaker, but this way you'll know what you have to look for. So yeah, if you end up having a build that's really much stronger, please post down in the comments what kind of gear you're running, what kind of weapon you're using. I would be curious to know. But yeah, so let's get into it. I'm also going to use the Kinsect buffs, the red and the white one, because, well, I mean, that's the whole point of playing the Insect Glaive, because you want to get those buffs. Currently we have 657 attack. With the buffs, we are looking at, let's see, 710. Alright, let's get into it. So, that's the triangle one time, so we got 54 and then in the high 40s. Let's do double triangle, 50, 62. Let's do a circle, 59, 72. Let's do 2 circles. 137 is the second circle, the tornado slash. And then let's do the jumping one. The last hit from the jumping slash is usually the hardest hitting one. So let me try to not mess this up. Aha. Alright, I jinxed it. Let me try that again. Okay. One more time here. 104. Alright, depending on the armor level that you're hitting, it might be a little more, it might be a little less, but 104 is what we are looking for. So if you found yourself enjoying this video, please give it a thumbs up, maybe even subscribe. And I hope you learned something from this build. Maybe you can adjust it and tweak it a little bit more to your liking. Maybe you have decorations that I don't have and that would work better. So let me know in the comments down below if you do, and if there's any suggestions or comments how you would think this set could be even better. But other than that, I hope I see you guys in the next video.